you some of my houseplant tips, some of my care tips. I have recently started to, over the last couple of years, become this plant lady, and I absolutely love having plants in my house. They bring me so much joy. They've taught me so much about taking care of myself. But with that, I have had to learn the hard way on how to make them thrive and survive, and I've learned a lot of things that I want to share with you guys today. So if you're tired of houseplants dying or turning yellow or turning brown after you've given them so much love, watch this video and hopefully some of these tips can help you too, and you can learn from my mistakes. The first thing is get to know your plant. Research it when you first bring it home and it comes with that little card. Keep that, study it, maybe keep it nearby or under the plant, because each plant likes different things, likes different lights, likes different amount of water, so you really got to get to know your plant. So besides researching it, you should also watch it a lot to get to know it. You should monitor it, see if it's starting to turn another color, see if it's like wilting to one side, see if it's growing only on one side. So really keep your eye on it so you know how to react prematurely before it's too late. The second thing that I would really keep in mind is lighting. Some plants like direct light, like monsteras, or this could probably take a pretty bright light. Also with lighting, you want to be sure that you're facing a window that is in the good direction for sunlight. Typically, I've read a lot that you should do it either the west, the east, or the south, and not the north. However, in my house, I found, because I live in the valley and the heat is so intense, the north and the south sides are actually like the perfect windows for my plants. They love them. And for the ones like my monstera, who really like a lot of light, I just put them closer to the windows because the west and east are so bright and direct that it burns my plants. So just figure out the directions of your windows and, rotate, move around your plants initially, but then when you get them in a good place, don't move them anymore, because then that stresses the plant out. So you might notice that your plants start to wilt or die once you move them. That's because it puts a lot of stress on the plant. The next thing I want to talk about is watering your plants. So this can be really important and a key reason why most people lose their plants or have their plants die on them is because they're either overwatering or they're underwatering. So with watering, one of the key things you can do to tell if your plant is dry and it needs more water is pay attention to the color yellow. So there's two ways that the color yellow can show up, either meaning it's dry or overwatered. If yellow shows up on the edges of your plant, that means your plant is too dry. So what the roots are doing is they're sucking water from the leaves, from the tips, into itself, so it can get more water. If you have yellow like in the center of the leaf, that means that you're overwatering and the roots are pushing that water back out into the leaf, into the plant. So that'll kind of start at the top into the center, whereas when it's pulling the water from the leaves, it'll start on the ends of the leaves, so you'll notice like yellowing tips. You can also look at the roots. So when you look at the roots, you take it out to water. For instance, when you have clear pots, like in orchids, you can pull them up, you can look at the roots and really examine, okay, what's going on here. If it's green and bright, then you know that it's okay. If the roots are silver, that means it's time to water. You can also stick your finger in the pot in the summer, about an inch down, usually on most house plants. And you also want to not just feel and see if it's dry, because wet and cold feel the same, so it could just be cold and you're thinking it's wet and then your plant dies because it's dry. But rub your fingers together after you stick your finger in and see if there's moisture. You don't want it to be super wet, but you don't want it to be dry. And in the winter, instead of an inch, you might want to go down 2 inches. Also, when you water, you want to make sure that you have a pot and soil that can really drain. So you want to make sure that you have a hole at the bottom, and you really want to let your plants dry out completely before you put them back in the decorative pot. So it's good to have pots that you can, inside the decorative pot, that you can pour water into, let them drain. I usually like to put mine in the sink, let them drain out. My orchids I let sit in the water a little while because they like water. They just need to be able to then drain afterwards, and then I put them back in the pots, and that usually keeps them nice and vibrant. I do that about once a week, and then your plants can stay nice and hydrated. If you're in a really hot, dry place, you also may want to spritz your plant with water. That's when you'll start to notice your plant leaves turning brown. So if you see brown, it's a humidity issue and you need to spray your plant because it may be a plant that's from like a humid place naturally, and it likes a lot of moisture. Another thing for water is make sure you're using like lukewarm water. You don't want water that's too hot, and you also don't want water that's too cold because you don't want to shock the plant. So just make sure you use lukewarm water. The next thing is the pot. So like I said before, make sure you have holes in the bottom so your pot can drain. It also the roots need air so they don't get root rot. So sometimes you can put like rocks in the bottom to make sure that there's air flowing through there. Monsteras, like peat moss mixed in with the soil to make sure there's air. Orchids, like those bark chips mixed in with their roots. Just make sure your plant roots are getting the air that they need. And also make sure that your pot is big enough. I had a big problem. I was taking care of my plants. I was fertilizing them, as the box was saying. I was watering them, good sunlight. I couldn't figure out why I had some plants that were dying, and it was because they needed to be repotted. And some plants just don't like to stay in a small pot. A lot of plants like to, when they grow, they need to move on to a bigger pot so they can grow even bigger and even fuller. So make sure that you have the right size pot, because that'll kill your plant. A lot of the times, even though you're doing the right thing, trust me, I have found out the hard way. The other thing is soil. So you want to make sure that you're feeding the soil according to what type of plant you have. A lot of different plants like different chemicals, so use a fertilizer specific for your plant, and that way you can make sure your plant has the soil that it needs to grow. And also when you're first potting it, make sure you're using potting soil. And that's specific to houseplants, because houseplants need a little bit more nutrients because they're inside. So make sure you're using the right soil. Then the next thing I want to talk to you about is rotating your plant. If it's by a window, you'll notice that it's only growing on the sun side. So I like to rotate my plants a little bit so they can grow on all sides. Like every 2 times that I water, I'll rotate each one about a quarter way, and that way they grows all the way up and strong instead of just on one side. Another thing to help your plants stay strong and sturdy is to support them either by putting a peat moss stand or a wood plank inside, and then just tying your plant up the support so it grows tall instead of growing out, or however you want it to grow. You can really shape it just by tying it to a support piece. And then the last thing is just make sure you prune and clean your plant. Take away all the dead leaves that fall just from growth, and make sure you're cleaning the leaves, because parasites and disease can get on your leaves and then kill your plant. So you just want to make sure it's clean, make sure you're taking care of it, and just do all that you can do to help it survive. So these are the tips that I have learned in my journey of houseplants, and I hope that they help you with your journey. I have grown so much from having houseplants in my house, and I hope you get to experience that same joy without the frustration of your plants dying on you like I have had happen to me so many times. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you think. I'm going to keep doing videos, and let me know what other videos you want me to do about conscious living, and I'll be sure to make a video on them and update you guys when they're up. Also, follow me on Instagram. I'm _Tiffany Shelton, and visit my conscious lifestyle blog at tiffanyshelton.com. Thanks for watching. Namaste.